You are looking live at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. That must mean it's time for Training Camp Live presented by FedEx here on Steelers.com. Hello, everyone. Mike Pursuta joined today by Craig Wolfley. And, Wolf, it is day 5 on the field, but it's day 1 in the shoulder pad. So, really, today's when we start finding out what Training Camp 2022 is all about.
Can you smell what the Rock's got cooking today, baby? Look, it is Pads Day. Yes, this is what we're all waiting for. This is what we've been watching over the last 3 days of the Lingerie League football. Now we're ready to go. This is where guys start to say who they are, make a name for themselves, and create a little separation.
I've been anticipating this as everyone has, but before we start breaking down what we're going to see today, I wanted to double back to something that you mentioned on Saturday that really stuck with me, and that was that when you're going half speed or shells or no pads, everybody's got a different idea in their mind what that really means, half speed. Now, all doubt is removed, and you start getting a much clearer picture.
Thank you. When you got those shells on, for some guys, shells mean it's a walkthrough. Other guys take it, shells mean it's pads, light them up. And so you kind of get this awkward misunderstanding sometimes of proper practice at etiquette. Well, now you're not going to have that problem. It's like you said. Strap it on, baby, lock and load, no quarter asked, no quarter given. Let's see what we got. And I think that's what today's all about.
This is a big day here for a lot of reasons. The Steelers have some things to sort out, particularly along the offensive line. But for everybody, it's a big day. It doesn't matter if you're established or trying to, force yourself onto the roster or create a bigger role for yourself. And I imagine, I'm going to guess a day like today has stuck with a guy like you. You could probably remember day 1 in pads here.
There's no doubt about it. There's a special thing that we used to – we would come in, and on day 1 was the running test, all right? You'd wake up the next morning, and you'd go through you go out there because you got doubles, and then you got 20 minutes, and you go into Oklahoma. 20 minutes of stretch, team start, and then into Oklahoma. And it's right away, baby. It was very gladiatorial. There was almost 20,000 people here on the hillside back over my shoulder there. And, there's lines up there. There was a lady, I'll never forget her, some kind of babushka lady, because I was sitting there and standing in line. I'm trying to see who I'm going to go against one-on-one in this gladiatorial-type combat thing. And I heard her go, "Hey, you, Yins, you, yeah, you're in my way. Get out. I can't see in that," I'm like, wow, these people are really serious. But, I will tell you this, Michael, 20 minutes into my first practice, just 20 minutes, about 21 minutes, actually, I got into a big fight with Steve Furness. And I'll never forget this because we must have rocked it pretty good because back in the day, they'd kind of let it go a little bit. All right, when they finished and we pulled us apart, the whole hillside right behind us, 20,000 strong, gave us a standing ovation. I was like, whoa, what was that all about? And then Mike Webster came by and goes, "Well, I see you're making friends fast around here, Craig."
Now, you mentioned Oklahoma, which is the old Oklahoma drill where there would be a running back and a lineman and a defender, and there was one way to go, and that was behind the offensive blocker. He had to get his block executed or the play wasn't going anywhere. They don't do that anymore, but we are looking forward today to backs on backers, which is a pass rush, pass protection exercise that has become legendary for quite a while now, and they include the tight ends in that, but it's basically blitz pickup and who wants to stick their face in the fan as it relates to pass protection. We're going to see team run. At least we're anticipating that we're going to see team run today. That's where they actually play football, but they're not just dropping back and throwing the ball all over the yard. They're handing it to someone and seeing if they can create a hole. And here in the Mike Tomlin camps, at least, they're going to see if you can tackle the guy. Not everybody tackles in the NFL in training camp. The Steelers will have moments, at least they have had in the Mike Tomlin era, moments where they do live tackling drills, and that's part of their getting ready. First down, run, and team red zone also anticipated drills today. What are you looking forward to the most, Mr. Wolfley?
There's any number of them, but let's start with the backs on backers, because one of the things that's interesting about backs on backers are watching the guys as they go about. This is less about technique and more about your heart, your courage. because it takes something for a back to stand up and give a 10-yard run to an inside linebacker or an 8-yard run to an outside linebacker and have to stick your schnozola right in his grill and get after it. You know what's going to happen, all right? They're going to tell the defensive guys, look, you got to play with technique. Let's see you make a move. Don't go down the middle of a guy. Oh, that's all fine and good until they get stuffed the first time, because the second time they're coming right down the middle. You know what I mean? That's going to be, Katie bar the door. Forget the technique. I'm coming down. I'm going to whoop you, because nobody wants to get out physical. It's going to be exciting. It's going to tell you a lot about both participants. Also, watch the guys in the line behind. Who is eagerly anticipating getting? Who's, I got to tie that shoe for the 15th time, or don't want to make eye contact with Mike. He might call on me. That's those guys. You'll see that happen too.
It's interesting you mentioned the line, because Mike Tomlin will orchestrate the line, whether guys are trying to duck a turn or jump ahead.
Yes.
He likes to see rematches. Sometimes he likes to see a best of three.
Yes.
In this thing. And just to kind of give people a little clarity in case you're unfamiliar with it, if you're the offensive player, you're not allowed to cut the defensive player.
Yes.
So the advantage is really all with the defensive guy. He gets a running start, and in a lot of cases he's bigger. But as you said, the schnozola into the grill thing, they want to see.
They want to see who's willing to mix it up and be tough about it. And I know that I honk off a lot of people when I say this, but when the guy comes down the middle, he's coming down the middle. Go ahead, cut him. You might as well declare it. Battle's on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. The fact of the matter is, this is about seeing these guys stand in there, pick up the outside blitzer, pick up the inside blitzer, whatever it is. It's a test of your courage. It's a test of your strength. It's a test of your desire to get after it. And it really tells the coaches a lot about who you are.
Yeah, and the way it works many times is the offensive player is in his blocking position, right, and there'll be a defender on either side of him, and a coach behind the offensive player will signal which player on defense.
Inside backer or outside backer.
Yeah, who's coming on the rush. So the guy has to diagnose before he can
read it,
execute the block. So a lot going on there. A lot going on with the offensive linemen as we take a look at the O-line warming up here at St. Vincent College. And, no more Oklahoma, as we mentioned. They're not really involved in backs on backers, but they've got enough to sort out, don't they?
There's no question about it. Look, some of the 9-on-7 that you're going to get with the team, that's kind of getting to be a tackle-to-tackle Oklahoma situation. They're going to work on that run blocking. They're going to work on rolling back the line of scrimmage on the other side of the ball. They're going to work on coming off as a group and as a 5-something, moving those people out of there. So I got to think that this is going to be an exciting time. We're looking at Kendrick Green right there. One of the great battles I'm looking forward to today is going to be a guy like Kevin Dotson and Kendrick Green showing what they can do, what they're capable of. I mean, the offensive line is it's just such a – there's so many high-level performers. I mean, between James Daniels coming in, Mason Cole, I'm excited. You got Danny Moore, who left tackle there. My gosh, the guy had a great first year. Now, can he build on that thing? And Chooks Okorafor, excellent offensive tackle, good solid right tackle. Let's face it, this is a good line that can really be something this year.
Let's stay with Green and Dotson for a minute. So you see Dotson, number 69, Green, number 53. Kevin Dotson was a guy who kind of exploded onto the scene very early in his career. He's had a hard time staying on the field ever since. Kendrick Green, a guy who was more guard than center in college at Illinois. Last year he was thrown into the center position. And, Wolf, I didn't think it was a disaster. I thought he had his moments. I just didn't think he had enough of them.
I think what happened, it just got to be mentally a wearisome type thing, that there was a lot going on, and he was, from the get-go thrown into this. It's very difficult. Look, you're replacing Marquise Pouncey, number one. Number two, you've played just 4 games throughout your collegiate career where you've been a guard the entire time. And for a quarterback of Ben's level to deal with a rookie center, that's a little bit difficult. Think why Marquise only practiced when Ben practiced. They made sure they were copacetic and on the same page all the time. That was not a disaster. Kendrick Green could be a fine center. I would love to see him still be able to compete at guard. I know he said, I didn't really like center. Well, you know what? if you had a bad pistachio nut there, you got to get another pistachio that's good. That'll clean out that taste in your mouth. Well, going back and playing some center and doing a great job of it, which he is capable. Because everything that I saw on tape, Mike, everything that I saw watching it live is fixable with this guy. This guy's going to be a player in there somewhere. I'll tell you this: Kendrick Green knows how to finish. He is a finisher.
It's interesting as we see the alignment there. You've got the starting unit +1 because Green and Dotson are both, hovering around that left guard spot. The first couple of days out here, they were trading days with the first team. On Saturday, they were kind of trading series. It wasn't your day, my day. It was kind of we'll both share this day. What goes into a battle such as this, and more importantly, what decides it?
Well, what decides it's going to be what shows up on tape. Because one thing to be sure, and what I love about Mike Tomlin is you are what your tape says you are. And that's what it's going to be throughout the preseason. Practices are important. It's going to be very important in the evaluative process, making sure that you're not making mistakes. But it's going to be also about who comes out performing and showing that he can move people at the line of scrimmage. This is about people moving. This is the young backs. We got young linemen here. Young linemen mean you got young, healthy, low backs. Young, healthy, low backs means that you can move people. All right, you're not a bunch of older defensive or offensive linemen who are on the outside zone, inside zone, stuff like that too. You can get to some good gap blocking, some man blocking, and move people because you got some physical guys up front. And I'm telling you, James Daniels is another guy I'm excited to see in those pads to see what he can do, because if what I saw on tape coming from Chicago is any indicator, by golly, you might have a guy that can put a real splat on some people.
Daniels, number 78 there at right guard, and that's been consistent. Chukwuezekorfor has been consistent at right tackle. Mason Cole at center, a guy that's played with a couple of teams already in his NFL career. What kind of reputation does he bring to Pittsburgh, Wolf, and what have you seen from him since he got here?
You see what he is, a veteran right now. He's a guy who's got a number of starts. He's had quality starts. He's a guy that has been in a couple of places, like you say. I'm anxious to see what happens with the pads come on. All right, because pads reveal everything, your strengths, your weaknesses, all those things come about when you are actually in pads and able to start getting at it and going after each other, and do so in a way that it's not by etiquette, by shells, by whatever. You are going 100%, and so that's going to be the telling thing. I love it in the sense of, look, with Kevin Dotson and Mason Cole and James Daniels and Kendrick Green all fitting into this, we've got some real power and strength available on the inside. I want to see more of that movement at the point of attack. That's one of the things that we needed. We got down blocks last year when you were running some of the gap blocking schemes. There was too much penetration, and I think with years comes the wisdom, and I think we're going to see a much better offensive line this year.
Let's keep it with the offensive line for a moment here. You don't mind talking about the offensive line a
Oh,
little
you
longer.
kidding me? Fat is where it's at. That's how the cultured fan knows. You look at the big shaggies up front.
One of the things that James Daniels talked about during OTAs was what he called shorter sets and a more aggressive method of pass blocking.
Yes. Yeah. That's what we used to do. This is that, here's the thing. You got those vertical sets where you're constantly giving ground. Well, the problem is we don't have that many 7 and 9 yard dropbacks anymore. You know what I mean? They're unloading the ball. So if you're not the quarterback's not dropping back 7 yards, 8 yards, you know what? You're giving ground too fast. The way we used to do it, you jump set a guy, meaning you want him in. I as a guard, I want that phone booth fighting. I want the close quarter combat right now. I don't want to give this guy 3 yards and start messing around. I want to attack him at the line of scrimmage. One time against the Jets, the great who was it, Marty Lyons, defensive tackle. We were having a little go at it, right? So it was on a 3rd and 11. I was jump setting him, and I was so eager to get after him, I wanted to blast him. I got called for being offsides on a 3rd and 11. When I got to the sidelines, Chuck looked at me and goes, "What are you thinking?" And I didn't really have a good answer. The point being is
there one or
there really isn't.
Yeah.
It's just it was bad. Okay, it's bad. 3rd and 11, you're offsides. You're right next to the center. You got any more issues there, Craig? So here's the thing. Jump set is about decreasing the amount of empty space for a defensive lineman to operate in. You want to get him right at the line of scrimmage, and you want to redirect. You don't want to just give up or anything like that, some ground going backwards. I want to redirect this guy in a flat area. I don't want to give up going backwards.
And part of that, at least how it's been explained to me, is first significant contact. Take the battle to the defender. Don't let the defender come into you.
No, you get right in his mustache. You know, I mean, you want to take him and attack him at the line of scrimmage. Hence, an idiot like me did go on a 3rd and 11, 3rd and 11. I did line up offsides. I was so eager to get after the guy.
Did you guys make the 3rd and 16?
No. That's why Chuck and I had an interesting conversation.
Gained 14 yards, if only for that penalty.
That would have been it. That would have been me.
I want to remind everybody we've got a Pro Shop item of the day, and today's item is the St. Vincent College Terrible Towel. There it is on the screen. I'm also holding it up. You can take advantage of the opportunity to pick up one of these, the Myron Cope creation. Myron Cope just going into the Steelers Hall of Honor over the weekend.
Yep.
And, every time I hear about Cope and the Terrible Towel, I think about that famous soundbite where somebody recorded him saying, "The terrible towel is poised to strike, and so are the Steelers."
Yes. Whenever we start talking about the terrible towel and we're talking about Myron, one of the things that always jumps in my mind was when he went to Andy Russell. He said, "Russell, I have this idea for a towel. What do you think?" And he goes, "That's a gimmick, Myron. We don't do gimmicks." Well, Andy, who's an astute businessman, a great businessman, he missed out on that one. That's the only thing I think he's ever missed out on, talking about finances.
As they were also explaining on Saturday when they did the Hall of Honor show here on Steelers.com, when the announcement was made, Cope was told by someone at Channel 4 that he needed to come up with something such as that, and the towel was suggested, and Cope said, "That's a gimmick. I'm not a gimmick guy." And the reply was, "Well, your contract's up this year." And he said, "I'm a gimmick guy."
Oh, how fast that worm turned, huh?
Got to read that defense, Wolf.
That's exactly so. No doubt.
You were talking a moment ago about the 20,000 people back in the day.
Yes.
The crowd on Saturday approached that.
Yes.
17,000 tickets distributed. Now, if you want to come out here and watch a practice, you don't have to pay. It's free, but you have to get a ticket ahead of time. And here's some of what we saw from social media regarding what took place on Saturday. There's that little kid. Did you see the video of the kid getting Kenny Pickett's autograph, and he started crying?
Hey, that's touching, man. Let me tell you something. I remember I saw my first pro, Haven Moses, a long time before I went up and got his autograph. I was so scared.
You didn't start crying, though.
No, I didn't start crying.
But that was
come on, I was 23.
There it is again. That was a pretty special moment.
It was. That was sweet.
It's interesting. The Steelers have a tradition here, but they hadn't been here since 2019. A lot of guys from the team have never been here. Some of the coaches have never been here. I was talking with Brian Flores this morning, who's been added to the staff as a linebackers coach, and he said he's never been to a camp.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. I mean, a lot of these guys, as I understand, there's only 20 or 22 guys total that have been to a St. Vincent camp, and a lot of these guys haven't been to football camps because of the COVID thing happening. But look, this is important. Think about it. Every Super Bowl has started right here in Latrobe. That's how it begins. That's how the journey is commences. You know what I mean? And there says something about the intangibles of these guys being together, away from the family, away from all the comforts of home and so forth. You come here with the boys and you hang out. And the thing about it is, there is a direct correlation in my mind between the tightness of a team through the blood, sweat, and tears that occur over the course of training camp. Now, back in my day, we were known to spend up to 7 weeks up here. You get tight after a while. And when you get back to that last man standing type of mentality because of training camp, man, I will tell you, the tightness in a team really begins with a great, great training camp. That's where it begins.
Yeah, and Flores, of course, a former head coach with the Dolphins,
right?
Former assistant in New England. But those teams don't go to camp. They go to the facility. And only a handful of teams in the NFL now go to camp now that you can go again.
But think about this, man. You got – now, unlike back in my day, and you were at Bonaventure Hall. You remember that. There was no air conditioning. There was horsehair stuffed mattresses. There wasn't any TV. There wasn't any phones. Now, man – You got golf cart rides down to 5-star dining, and you got air conditioning and everything else. That's a heck of a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, there you get a look at Brian Flores, who, boy, I'm curious to see the kind of impact he can have. Mike Tomlin said they call him linebackers coach because they got to call him something, but he's here to be a football coach and to contribute.
There's no doubt that man can bring a lot of savviness, a lot of game, a lot of football technique explaining stuff to this team. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Listen, Mike doesn't go about just hiring people out of goodwill. It's about what do you bring to this team. And I think Brian Flores is going to bring a lot.
We're going to see a lot today. It is the first day in pads, a much-anticipated day for players, media, fans, everybody out here at St. Vincent College. Cam Hayward talked about putting the pads on this afternoon when he met the media after the walkthrough this morning, and he provided us with kind of a checklist of what he wants to see his teammates accomplish.
No, I'm just honestly just trying to be an outlet, make sure offense knows when they're losing. Defense knows we got to pick it up. It's about stacking good days on top of good days. And it's about staying on the details. And this allows guys to grow. You got to have those hard times, those hiccup moments where, someone's getting the best of you or you're getting the best of somebody. And you guys are just competing. We get back to our competitive periods now that allow us to really challenge each other.
Boy, Cam Hayward on Saturday, Wolf, I could hear him up here from our vantage point on the top of the hill overlooking the practice fields. He's always struck me as a guy who would be engaged when he wasn't participating, but I think he took it to another level Saturday.
When you see Cam leads from the front better than anybody I've seen in a long time, shall we say. Let's just put it that way. And I watch Cam, and I love this. Every locker room I've ever been in, Mike, there's adders, subtractors, multipliers, and dividers. And Cam is a multiplier of the men around him. He's an adder to the juice and energy of the practice. But believe you me, he is a multiplier of the men around him. Very similar to like the great Joe Green. Joe was the exact same way.
Yeah, and Cam Hayward, it's never good enough to him, and it's never enough. In other words, if you had even a great practice, he wants it even greater, and he wants it again the next day. Consistency. Keep churning one after another.
You're exactly correct. What you're talking about is what Cam was talking about when he said, referring to the stacking of the practices, making sure that you're on an upward trajectory. It's really easy to shine once every 3-4 days. It's the mentality that you have to get in your head to come out each and every day with optimum performance. And I think that's one of the things that Cam excels at. Not only does he demand it of himself, but he demands it of his teammates. But first and always, as a good leader does, you demand it of yourself, and that's what he does.
Seems to demand it of his little brother maybe a little more than the rest of them, too. Conor Hayward showed up a little bit on Saturday, made a couple of plays. Mike Tomlin could be heard. Again, we're up on the hilltop here.
Right.
I could hear Tomlin a couple times crediting and praising Conor Hayward. Cam was asked about that today. He said, yeah, he was good, but not good enough. He could be better.
He's not. You know what? I always felt like Chuck was rough on the offensive line because he was a former offensive lineman. I felt like he was tougher on the guards because he was a former guard. And I thought he was toughest on me because he was a former left guard. You know what? If you got a brother who's a multiple all-pro and everything else, he's going to be tough, first of all, on himself, then on his family, and then on his extended family, which is his teammates. It's just the nature of the beast.
You never thought for a second some of that might have been he just didn't like you?
That could have been too. That could have been too. Especially after the first time he worked me out when I accidentally hit him in the kisser and drew blood.
Well, you keep jumping offside on 3rd and 11. You're going to get on the guy's wrong side.
Michael, if you could only try to figure out what I said when I got up there and he looked at me and says, how can you do that? You don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah. Hey, you see there he is, George Pickens. I was going to say
yes.
we got to look at him a moment ago, but we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Cam Hayward, a veteran of many camps, a veteran leader on the team. George Pickens, 2nd-round pick out of Georgia. And I know you got to take it with a grain of salt when they're not wearing the shoulder pads, Wolf, but it would be relatively easy to get overexcited about what we saw from number 14 last week.
You are exactly correct, sir. What we've seen from George Pickens thus far is one of those things that make you kind of I don't know, like a butcher's dog sitting around when the chopping block and they're carving up some roast beef and all that stuff. You get a smile on because what you've seen thus far makes you feel like, man, there is a lot there that is going to be revealed when the pads come on and the games get going. This guy's got linear speed. This guy's got an ability to make 90-degree hard cuts. He drops his hips. He comes out of breaks. He's got good hands. We've seen him no problem with laying out and doing a little Gumby-fied twisting in the air, trying to catch a pass. So I look forward to seeing what this young man can do because not only him, but Calvin Austin has shown and done some very nice things out there, as well as Miles Boykin, too.
I like the Gumby reference, even though probably a lot of people watching us don't have any idea what you're talking about. In case you fall in that category, here's what Wolf and I know about Gumby. It was this little toy you used to have. It was a green guy, and you could just – it was wires covered by what, rubber or some kind of foamy?
Yeah.
You could just twist it like a pretzel, and then he would come back and be Gumby again. He had a little orange horse he rode called Pokey.
Pokey, that's right.
Gumby and Pokey.
All right.
Google it. You can't play with Gumby on your phone, but it was a lot of fun.
You know what it does tell you? It tells me and tells you we're old.
Yeah. But we are appreciative of George Pickens' Gumby-like characteristics. Big guy, Wolf, 6'3", over 200 pounds, and the sideline awareness is something to see.
His ability to highball it, go high, be able to get after it is going to be something because I think he's got a lot of vert. I think his ability to play, the toe tap, he looks like he's pretty nimble with his sideline adjustments. But, again, his desire to get in and out of his breaks. I say desire because, a lot of people think, they're speed merchants. They go out there, they just run, it's hard. No, you got to have a real desire to push yourself to that nth level to be able to make those hard cuts and get after it, looking for the ball, knowing that there's a good chance that somebody coming the other way with a lot of force is about to light you up if you catch a ball. So I love seeing the courage of these young guys get out there, get after it. A guy like George Pickens is going to be, in my mind, an absolute essential if he is able to capitalize on what we've seen thus far from him.
Yeah, and he has definitely shown up here with an agenda. He doesn't expect it to just happen. Let's give a listen to George Pickens talking about what he's trying to get done out here.
My objective in camp was really just to, show guys we've been not in pass the whole time. So just showing, like, all the coaches, I'm really a nice route runner. You remember that was my biggest thing because everybody know I'm big, fast. That was my, just deep ball type of guy. That's what Randy Moss was. Randy Moss really never had to and that's kind of what I wanted to display.
You were a guy, when you were at Georgia, you were a guy that looked like you really embraced the blocking aspect of playing wide receiver.
Yeah.
How long has that been a goal of yours, and how much are you looking forward to putting the pads on today and showing a little of that?
Really just keep doing the same thing I've been doing. At the end of the day, it's like football, so you don't really up it one day more just because we got pads on, or up it one day less just because we don't. So,
is that something somebody stressed to you at an early age? Hey, you can't just catch passes. You got to do some dirty work.
Yeah, as an early age, I didn't play offense, so that kind of explained itself to me.
What'd you play?
Safety and cornerback.
Wolf, people that study these guys before the draft, and I know we've got people out there watching that do so. George Pickens was a physical wide receiver at Georgia. Can't wait to see what he does with those shoulder pads today.
Yes. What I love about it is whenever you have wide receivers who tend to be on the physical side, a la established back in the day by John Stallworth and Lynn Swann, and then later on Hines Ward and so forth. And, you want to earn that moniker like of what Tunch Ilkin used to say, tougher than woodpecker lips. Right? And that's one thing that Hines Ward brought. I thought Juju Smith-Schuster was very similar, the same. And George Pickens is a physical guy. He's one of those guys that gets in a combative catcher. When you get in those the close quarter combat of pass catching, he's got linear speed and he's got great route running ability. And this is what's kind of amazing to me. The dude doesn't even look like he had a knee injury from last year. That's remarkable. And, you're talking about not a long time here.
The truly remarkable part, at least to me, was that he made it back. He suffered the knee injury in the spring and made it back for the last 4 games and was able to play a little bit. Not that he dominated, but he got back onto the field. He made a big catch in the national championship game, and he showed that body control where he had to go full extension for the ball, and then he was able to twist so he wouldn't land on it. I mean, the guy's got a lot of awareness. He's got a lot of understanding on how he's got to do what he wants to do. And as he said this morning, Wolf, he came up playing safety, so he's
not afraid to tango.
Yeah, he knows what the pads are for, and I think we're going to see a lot of that from him. Another guy I think that is going to be a physical presence as a player is Cam's little brother, Conor Hayward. I mentioned that Conor kind of showed up and stepped out a little bit on Saturday, made some plays, did some things. Here's Conor Hayward talking about how his camp's gone so far and where he wants to take it and how he wants to get there.
That I can block, I can run, catch, do everything, and that, we're working as a unit. The offensive line, tight ends work well together, and, we're just doing the stuff that, we were doing when the pads weren't off. It's all about execution, everybody being on the right guys, and, that's what it's really about.
Conor, you were used in a variety of roles at Michigan State. Do you envision something like that here, or are you specifically just working at tight end?
I envision, whatever the coaches want me to do. They've mentioned me playing H, Y, and F, so just learn it as much as possible and, learning the big picture. I don't want to just blind myself off to one position. I'm open to more things because the more you're able to do, the more opportunities will open up.
Conor Hayward, Wolf, a guy who is working mostly at tight end, but he has been to some fullback meetings, and he did a little of both at Michigan State. He was originally a tailback for the Spartans, but one of those guys that, and again, I'm going to be accused of alumni bias here, but I see him as a guy who figures it out somehow, and he just has a knack for making plays. And I'm very interested in seeing if he can apply that at the next level, because he certainly did it a year ago and the year before that.
There's no doubt. Look, you look at his genetic pool, right, that he comes from. Dadgummit, there's just a lot of football in those genes. So, you take a look at what can he do? Well, he's got the H-back, he's got the fullback type thing, but, it's going to be about making your bones on the special teams. And I look at them, and I kind of look at Conor, and I see a little bit – every now and then you see a little crazed look in his eye, and you think, yeah, he's ready to feed. Get the pads on. He's ready to feed. He's a Hayward, or as Mike called him, a little head, like a little iron head.
Probably just a coincidence he's wearing number 83, right? That wasn't done for any reason by anybody.
No. Who else would be wearing that? Heath Miller. Did you know Heath Miller his first name was Earl? I didn't know that.
So when he would introduce himself to you, he might say, "My name is Earl." Is that what you're telling me?
It would have totally messed me up. I didn't know that.
I mentioned we're expecting backs on backers today, and tight ends are included in that. At least traditionally they've been. You don't suspect that Cam Hayward would also be included, even though he is not a backer. Any chance we see number 97 trying to get to the imaginary quarterback through number 83? Because that is something – Wolf, I mentioned the tickets are free here. All you got to do is sign up, but that is something I would pay money to watch.
To watch 97 in backs on backers?
Going against 83.
Oh my heavens. You know what? I would only say this to Conor. Cut him. Just cut him. Just cut him below the knees. Don't go high. You're going to get drilled.
The tight end's working on some high technique here. Tell us a little bit about what they're doing and why.
Well, what they're doing is they're getting their initial pass sets. What you want to do is get a familiarity with setting up and then knowing where your punch radius is. The punch radius is your extension of your hands, being able to reach out just as you saw Conor Hayward and time the punch. What you don't want to do is get caught with arms that are collapsed. You don't want to try to bench press a guy off you. You want to be able to lock out on a guy and hit him with the last 4 to 6 inches of your arm length. That's important. Then you can get a punch. Then you can stone the guy. But if you get caught with your hands up against your chest, now that guy's got the leverage on you and going to have the force momentum, the continuum of which you will get driven into the ground, I can promise you.
Now, it looks like a similar conversation here. You saw Conor Hayward talking to Zach Gentry about what you were just mentioning.
Yes.
Now he's talking to Pat Fryermuth, who, by the way, not wearing his shoulder pads, so we're going to assume that he is out again today with that hamstring injury he's been dealing with. But it looks to me, Wolf, as if they're preparing Conor Hayward to do a little pass block.
Oh, there's no question he's going to be involved there.
Backs on backers would seem to be a
Let's go, baby.
fairly
Let's see
good
what you got.
opportunity.
Yep. You will be called out. Just think, right now, if you're the young Conor, right, you know Mike, and Mike T is standing right there. You know he's going to have the focus on you. Mike is not about shrinking violets out there, shall we say. He wants to see the guys put on the big stage. Now, how do you react? How do you go about it? And one of the things that's going to be important to remember, if you lose, try to lose with proper technique because you'll learn something from it. If you just get in there and brawl, you're not going to learn anything from it. That's a problem. So for these guys, you got to remember to try to check your ego and try to be able to make sure that you're able to execute with proper technique. You got to learn something from it. As I always used to say to all my boxers, I used to have a gym, had a lot of boxers and fighters that trained. And one of the things about them, when you spar, you want to spar competitively, but learn something from it. It can't be a brawl. Nobody wins in that.
Of course, if you were paying real close attention there a minute ago, you also might have noticed wide receiver Chase Claypool in the background wearing the bucket hat and just his jersey, no pads. Claypool went out a couple days ago with a shoulder injury. None of these injuries, according to Mike Tomlin, are anything to inspire any type of serious concern, but some of the guys being ushered back slowly. Steelers taking a cautious approach this early in training camp. So probably not going to see Pat Freiermuth today. You're not going to see Chase Claypool. We saw Deontay Johnson during one of our earlier clips, also not wearing shoulder pads. He has not done any 11-on-11 work in camp yet. He's trying to get himself a new contract. Here's a guy who knows how to use his pads, Wolf, Naji Harris.
Oh, yeah.
I thought really, I know locally he was appreciated. I know his team appreciated him. I think Steelers fans appreciate him, but I don't think he got the accolades he earned nationally because his statistics weren't necessarily ones that would blow you away. But, boy, the degree of difficulty with his runs last year, the amount of times he had to break a tackle or two just to get back to the line of scrimmage, and he just kept coming, kept catching the ball. The workload they put on him was profound, and I didn't see him blink.
No question about it. You summarized it perfectly. What everyone was staring at was the 3.9-yard average. Okay, that had a lot to do with getting caught behind the line of scrimmage and some, blow-ups on the line by the offensive line. Look, Naji Harris, I was asked Saturday by somebody, it said, was he going to have a breakout year? Huh? The guy rushed for 1,200 yards. He had over almost 1,700 yards from scrimmage. He set franchise records. He had touchdowns. He had a total of, 10 touchdowns or something between rushing and pass catching. 74 catches or so. Come on, that's not breaking out? I know that there's some high numbers for these guys that they want to see when you talk about breakout years, but gadzooks, man, Naji Harris is a 3-down back in a league full of specialists, guys that are third down backs, guys that are first and second down backs. And yet this is a guy that can run hard on first down, second down can pick up a blitz, and third down go out and catch a pass. I can't say enough about the young man. He's got a lot of determination. He's got a lot of heart, a lot of courage. You saw it when he got out there and get a little open range, and you see him run a little bit last year. I expect to see more. We're going to see more and better things from Naji Harris.
We got a quick look at another guy not in pads as we focus in on the running backs here. Jeremy Mcnichols, the running back that the Steelers picked up shortly after their arrival here. He has been with a handful of teams in a brief NFL career to this juncture. He's part of a perceived solution behind Harris, but two-parter for you. How much or how badly do the Steelers need another running back to establish himself as that next option so that they can take a little of that load off of Naji Harris? And who might that guy be, Wolf?
Well, right now, as I look at this thing, and I look at Naji, I know a lot of people want to take a lot of the workload off of me at 381 touches last year and all. Well, you know what? Lev Bell had 406, back in the day. I'm sorry. I'm still of the thought that you got to feed this guy as much as you can. And if you got to go with seconds, you're also looking at Benny Snell. You're looking at Anthony McFarland. Anthony had trouble with the knee or something last year. He had injuries, and it never really materialized. Those two together maybe can provide some relief. We'll see. There's some other people, as you talked about. But the fact of the matter, you got the Jalen Warren and Mcnichols and Mateo Durant. But, those three guys, Naji, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland right now, they're going to be the guys that primarily are going to be toting the pigskin. We'll see what comes out of the preseason. As always, preseason will give you an idea.
Today's going to give us a little bit of an idea as well, Wolf. I know you're anxious to get down on the field and get knee deep in it, so we'll call it a day here for the pre-show. Remember that the wrap-up show will take place after practice. That's why we call it the wrap-up show, because we're going to wrap up practice. It was
Wow, that just bamboozled me.
Yeah, it wasn't a long meeting to name that, but our colleague Max Starks is going to be joining us for that. So don't forget to tune back in after practice today. Until then, for Craig Wolfley, I'm Mike Pursuta. Thanks for finding us. We'll talk to you again soon here on Steelers.com.